Welcome to Mars's Verseus. If you would like to enjoy this album without a contextual introduction first, please skip to the next track now.
Few people heard this artist's previous record, and those who did may have understood it was about two things. The nature of migration, not merely of the body but of the mind and the spirit too, and the moment of epiphany, more specifically, the one which causes one to realize that in fact one was wrong. A concession which sends one back to the customs queue awaiting the border official of the spirit. Now this one, on the other hand, if it were to be said to be about anything, is of the struggle to belong when one is so keen to self-actualize. The struggle that comes when in order to belong, one need voluntarily limit the self. When to belong is corrupt, when to belong is abject, when to belong requires you to be persecutory, more narrow of mind, to perform virtue and invoke it without exemplifying it, to play at rationality or enlightenment as a cover for prejudice. It is a portrait, in other words, for those both great and sweet of mind and soul, whose essence of being, because they cannot both freely be themselves and be long, for they confound too many lines and in doing so come to know too much, is lost. And yet who from this lost bask in a character unified and deep where others are shallow. This album is about the fact that this was the sentence for true actualization for the self in London at such a time, and that in such pervasive gloom, isolation was common.
Have you woken up upon a horse and cried? His false ones left off the ground, a visionary delight. When I asked him, where in this town that is its own war can I find those with the unswerved determination to serve and not submit to immoral rules or abusive regimes who hurt and heal as a path of what's right demands? What my Mickey Mouse facade said he, if you look at the catch to those who might break your youthful hide in useful ways down in one moonlit lanes, congregate those from whom you might learn something. This millennial perspective dyspeptic, kinda like expressing crocodile or organized opinion. Wrestling kinda goes to guys looking for the future with history's eyes and right wall around.
For those enticed by the sound of the door saying come from up instead to become a god by participation, nor if in your estimation the town waiting outside's a harbor of honors. Now for roll call, if you would just maintain your silence, tell them your name out. What a nice way that horse play. Who are they if not those who give lost causes hope? Like about this pledge universal. Whether we're Inuit, Korean, scope or Ethiopian, Ivory, Onyx or Heliotropian, manly or manly if neither or both, we swear to chase the makings of a night.
Crusade and sailors and getting to the point like me in your life. We have survived 4 or 5 proverbial shrouds, forgotten what's easy with Dolce after Sheila says to do what's right, to say comfort be forgone out of my eye. All life will be dignified. If the risk ridicules the risk of a lip permits, then I'm doing as a revolutionary should. Right now from my beliefs, yeah, the many times I can get myself hit, I am my time against. To live in unreason, rent a responsibility free in a duplex of sentiment, to live in the most fashionable modern ignorance. That ain't enough, it ain't enough, it ain't enough for me. There must be more to come than life of the mirror born. A man that looks into that world, ramified mirror, the mysterious self and thinks that the only way to see his reflection is to look away from it. That's the one, the only making of a night. Of a night.
Precisely what philosophy the Berg lives by. In other words, play the Perseus within our Verseus.
Now we present as they stand in contemplation before some Dutch painting in the National Gallery, thoughts of a farmer of London's preferred crop, Sterling.
Without alarm I sped through the veils of the label's piece, my knees in his tent. I'm in cause I pivot to the wolf and something in the print of leopard for the shadow charm I spend. Home is for love's case and the main for the goal, whose love that I'm wasting, alienated from the principle that maybe conspicuous spending's for your case. I aim I spend. So that may be the simulation of well-dressed famous freedom's approximation, but only its approximation. I pull the revolutionary stand, and then like revolutionary strainers. Principles they once would have died for him, now they beg a sweatshop stitch in time for him. Always meant myself as incorruptible before I saw how you make corrupt and firm, before you show me how what I take's what I'm worth. But then I saw in that sterling mug luck in someone's whole relation to the fact that my consumption of the rapidly diminishing inheritance that is this earth. And that anyway, sterling don't stop a man from putting his abuse on me based on the shade of blue on your back, melanin he had to relax. And sterling don't stop the whip's crack, but the sterling don't care. No. The sterling goes to change. I try to clip the splendid dove's wings, but it's on the Rex's ground, it still sings. We made it for life by Register's ring. Reminiscences of my inner rapping high on a pitiless horizon, like how rubber Dutch ice is fire. With the Dutch painter's finest sensibilities, I went off like a watching mama. But face my end with the depth and taste of Dutch paint. And the queens upon my writs spare no tears, admiring in the eyes of my heroic sacrifice. If anything that's my more, but guys like I must be a hero to be so rich. You see, the point, my friend, is within ourselves we span. Treat all lenses means to their own end, and the manners of the very fortunate and fortunate within those all ashamed to be poor in it. Ashamed. The only gated in excess can our sense of security securely reside. And I feel dirty enough to die without enough sterling in the pocket to clutch, enough sterling in the pocket to clutch. The sterling goes to change. I try to clip the splendid dove's wings, but it's on the Rex's ground, it still sings. We made it for life by Register's ring. Made it for life, made it for life, made it for life. extorted by the force of my own fantasia. I'm not so rich, just to paint myself, though I must say I paint myself very well. I pay only for entry into the state of ignorance, and maybe ignorance is the one blessed state. Set it high on foresight, and life becomes a slow matter of the unlivable, much like the Dutch Isis spiders.
Anyway, it's not about gold, it's about souls. And that it should be so deep down, everybody knows.
Not about gold, it's souls, and deep down everybody knows. It's not about gold, it's souls, and deep down everybody knows.
Alright, now you're probably gonna hear this beat around quite a lot in the next few. It's called the Boshack. Take that bow diddly. And on top of that bow diddly, you have a little bit of that big shack. Let's get it. It's yours truly, DJ Snifter. To typically use my guitar to complete seductions. I said not this time. Since I like playing two loves off against one another except in rhyme.
Teased by iron, it raised the lights attention benightly aggravates. That we running so well, the rally can't fail. The tennis that plays here in a night tale.
So long and gorgeous that mane, if a lady's reverie locks even fame be called the main. And yet see all those washerwomen I thought were born over with filthy linen, washing that linen in such a beautiful stream. Yeah, I always talk like this. For what worth is living without some handicap for discipline?
I rhyme like this, regale like this, then I let you sizzle stuff mine like this. I let you whine like this, climb like this. No other time am I so singular or mine like this. Get the tenderness, bringing our cynical touch, but like a lyric, the sweet truth will come to mean both more and less than it seems, more than you think, less than it is. And now we're both pursed with words, longer streaks to make it so rare. But tonight the entendres are we free, see free as being free to act like damn animals, albeit ones with a well-developed nose for the trophy. DJ Snifter, sniff your tear now, and played. Vulgar and too arrogant to imagine someone like you. Touch proves you true once again. But love ain't it true that you took your cue from Nice Bridge in the summertime? More is blending, one's golden, find the $10 but revealing nothing of how you're going. Come on, these noble fridges, club floor, bigger dishes, to the niches, a blockhead of body you chew. Am I primary stakeholder? That's to say, my pride of place in the folio in which such tales cut and undertold. We match poles are all, give a possible set of free. Or promise of their contentment with only all the riches of dispassion, ignorance, and intemperance. If you are happy that freedom hold no more value than this, then yes, go free, free forth and spend. Seems to me you're a slave to your every appetite, instinct, and fear, and that seems to me not freedom, not happiness. But why would you, slave, listen to such words uttered from one who looks such a slave to you? If not slave to a slave, perhaps if I win a claim on this work, she will sort through their faults via song. With a love that was withheld, it would simply be a song that decries that this writer has nothing with which you're about to write. Battle pencil and the cultures of the places, so that redefine love's the art of the using and the use, the pleasures till happiness by pleasures abused, and call it a Boshack for the girl. Change in and change out of Flake 99 and we're free her. Every time I
think I'm at my wit's end with you. My wit extends just enough that a week later I find myself at its ends yet again.
Okay, let me hear some boo-hoos from you now, people.
The ovaries of San Theo are hardly a Woodstock of the great.
London is a city of often clashing voices. To navigate it, you need to be capable of contrapuntal thinking. And the best way of acquiring that capability is to listen to contrapuntal music like Mars's music. Contrapuntal is the adjective used to describe the phenomenon of counterpoint. In music, as in any other context to which it might be applied, a counterpoint is a relationship between voices in which the voices themselves are rhythmically and melodically independent of one another, either literally or proverbially, while still remaining harmonically interdependent. It's hard enough to write one beautiful song, but the rules of counterpoint demand that you write 2, 3, even 4 beautiful songs that are able to coexist within the space of one composition, giving at once a certain free reign of development, all the while serving the greater purpose of the whole. Now that kind of music, the kind of music you'll find on this very record and all Marsian records, as such mirrors an ideal conception of the greater society, in which neither individual development nor a glad willingness towards wider goals are utterly subordinate. And that's why in a society like this one, in order for it to grow less miserable, counterpoint in thought and yes, maybe in song too, need be embraced. It requires a certain lavishness of musical facility, a charitable good nature against adversity, and an ability to delight in the sense of a cosmos interdependent, one in which every chord of human destiny arouses a multitude of voices to both parallel and contrary motion. That's a whole new economy we're talking about. But we've begun minting the currency. That's a whole new culture incipient, but we've begun sketching out the plans for this quietest of long unfolding revolutions. Or no, in fact, perhaps not a quiet revolution at all, but a songful one, a revolution truly musical. And if then, instead of a bullet, we must let fly with thought and note, then here's the next volley. From Os Fez Doliki, Marsy Mars. just as quick. A bird on bright side, men and women were free. Sang them to common captivity, so stimulated to sin, which by exile is believed. Shadow bands to deliquesce and decease. Shadow bands to keep the peace. Your eviction from the heart so subtle that one day the front door you once opened onto a liquor's inglade. Your heart love loud strand now opens on a more away stuff plain grey. Perhaps that verdancy once shared that we was ever in grip of emergency. Maybe my trenchant affections were cruelty, my infinite variety, a sufficient bite that you forsake common society. Everything else unless wet a responsibility. I know we're main subject of somebody's affections, but I fear it's just that he isn't in paper readers and they're afflicted with guardianism. A pleasing fear that someone somewhere may be unhappy. The cloud is their silver lining, something I was taught by a valued customer. Was it because I was alive to such hypocrisies that I refused to make Reese's peace with them? That I was from your heart defanned and shadow banned? Or did I do something worse that I can't recall?
In the kitchen, and sometimes even in the shower, in my bed, and they're almost equivocal, dumbing in my head, in whose physics they might as well be Phoenix. Before you ask, how can you know your Shadowban when no one makes it like, oh I don't know, Nemo knows, and he with rhetorical sublime has made me sure. Was it when I dwelt on the one pop there, when I hit the regal blue tang of tweeting a mission, make it some unpardonable admission? Iterate, I'm afflicted with tweeters memory loss, as are we all to a point. The outcast at least has their knowledge of their alienation to its folly of the imagination. I feed the dog ego, but to have been outcast without wish, without spectacle or ceremony, sentenced not to death but to forgetting. Well then, send me to Mars for my Shadowban. And there, low gravity, that I might grow tall. And there, at least, is bliss. No one but me. Here they come, here they come. They come to feed the birds. I get to the window, to the kitchen, up in the shower, in my bed. In the end, that building is mine, my fingers and my head. Forsaken substance. Aren't we ugly? I exist now beyond the frame, not wrapped to be judged in the end as the murderous sleeping lay. Or perhaps it's an inharmonious order I'm removed from. Perhaps I've been tuned as perfect a fifth. It's the fifth from which I swing. Covering these paths with suspicions, the only finding craft. No here in return to hope, generosity, art, all in nature's sternest nature. And what art? For now I've practiced perfect the skill of walking through a hall of mirrors without leaving a reflection. Adventure as gives us preference for life, fun and playing where pain can be so easily managed. Surely they are heroes, those who will embrace an everyday life. Shout W1's jungle ride. We wish to see bosses winning through a shotgun's chime. Make you think of a happier time with hopefully dreams still occupied. I train if it is a torment here. If that meant you touch me again, the anguish gaze do all but passed me through. But no, here below the globe, a shore, a beach with no ocean.
potion attached. My spirit cast at the bottom of the hourglass, where the sands of time claim all differences in the end. Of Kiara and Corona on the old Brompton Road in Boys Toad likes that eye on the lily of the cabman's shelter, floating in a pond of 10 sugared brew. That noise won't make us with distant, like to make rhyme in the air of this town, that's me. That's the sound of my vehicle plunging through the thought noise in inexhaustible service to a city of blood sports in which blades are bathed in acid. To accessorize the little comfort of the scepter king, to read the metro well enough to lawful metro poor enough to wish that you could. Or you're among the lost of a dignified liberating class, born after the fading of the regime. Like me, I inherited only the shelter, and frankly, my top hat revolves in indignation. My top hat revolves in indignation. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. The one that holds up the card tonight, we're going for a ride. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. The one that holds up the card tonight, we're going for a ride. I've been every faith's witness, I confess to every minute of the night. Just after all, the kingdom in which street camp from a time is heavy helm set aside, where the den of thieves philosophy reigns common, so potent as to disease and wither the bearer. I find too that look upon you, my fair embarrassed, but plunging lines, stocks and shares, best counted by moonlight. One of 21,000 Haroon Al-Droshkis. Not a reference you necessarily expect me make. Once upon a time, perhaps me neither, but around the world, though I'd never gone anywhere except Spain. All that driving gives you plenty of time to think. I wonder if they considered a moment how far and deep I thought, how far and deep I thought. Purest form of movement there is. The purest form of movement there is. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. The one that holds up the call tonight, we're going for a ride. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. Come on, Cabbie, Cabbie. The one that holds up the call tonight, we're going for a ride.
flying them jacked up just the other week for the loss of an unexplored fellow tie. And a handmade DVD and some cones of it wouldn't even fit in. Yet if he run me through, I'd have been in his eternal debt, albeit briefly. Tape out a blade as wheel this get useless past townhouse roasty ran to the neighboring estate and never stood alone, absent of any cavalry. Death ever grew so reluctant to me. Not for me to be a galloping undertaker's days, David. Oh, that life should always be so exciting, so infused with such meaningful communion. And mind always have cause to run amok with thoughts like purchased soldiers. Barely a single worthy shirt among them. Send me trying to make like a man whose brain contains only maids in habitation, thinking how the land might be enriched. For in my room, which though its tears feed, I've learned to heat without gas. I've long since failed to meet it if my isolation was born, or is my gift. And if it is my genius, then such genius is also a plague. Born by surfboard on the sea, spread light to those entities who surround me so completely.
And how's that for tragedy? All those thousands around, and still no one, and still no one.
I hear their words, they themselves know not they speak. Look at him go, he's not a boy, he's not a man. He is something that I'll never understand. Times as tough as the dark beast hide, raises never gaze on these silicate fields. With suited second-gen Ghanaians, and one look like shepherds ain't got no interest in sheep, but those sheep be exploited labor, fit for peeps reap. All history is taken for nostalgia here, or ought to be refined in timelines, belching toxins to the sky. This is such a locale, I can have no hope, merely will, and yet shuffle I by the factory as though I had the former. Even still, dark as my spirit may be, still I am happy if queer I seem to you. Imagine how queer I seem to me, how queer seem all these elaborate philosophies they build to excuse the discontent. Their art designed only for the victory of the party. They have no joy in values, there's lived no warmth thought for ordinary mortals, and insignificant veins it seems so rare they prove the most ordinary of them all. Following their own validity, I'm guilty of that too, but though no one else has proof, that's not true. And what is true, well that's all I have, which I once guarded jealously, but which now I wish to share with you. If I seem too eager to humble the pride, observe if you would that there are many worse faults, and that as you big curricularly decolonizing cultures ghettoize, you do so via devices whose barcodes are got prison bars. Their blood price sinks, and who cares? can only believe no one but me. No wonder I am time to time found hard to receive.
See, I was derived with unique purity from memories such as cannot be lived with, only transcended or otherwise made plantation. A world laden in invisibility by the touch of light, so that only with my eyes closed does myself come into view. It's both the truth of my generation and the curse it will gift to the world. Those casks where memories housed and occasionally brought to task, the contents mellow to a richness far removed from the moment they concern. Experiencing this wine, all the richer with time, we cry man, but to have that time once again, when a factor pass across tongue, it's tasted so much interim, it would not taste so rich. I can take no pleasure in what is, merely what was. The isolation's not gift, but sentence, so give me a keg of past grammar and let me drown myself standing up. And that's what happens when you're a human archetype, that's for immortality. Among all the ruined soul is left no one but me. So hell and hell only pass past the beast of old. The feel of its first sure familiar, it's given in breath, perhaps in anger. If the trophy had a skin from its mate, now I sport me against August cold that hide in these foul dwells. The carriage bifurcated, and the tunes by which I'm very hidden, exlocated. The heat of the song, so outrageous that it turned my brain matter to glass. My every thought clear, too clear to recognize for the first time. Moment to find some kids using my ears as a telescope.
And still no one, and still no one, ain't no one, no one, no one like me. Ain't no one, no one, no one like all those thousands around, and still no one, and still no one, ain't no one, no one, no one like me. Ain't no one, no one
There is no part of my life, as it is now lived, no quirk of fate, no friend made, no idea born and born, which I do not owe to London. In many outward senses, the city is, all told, rather boring. It is mercantile, but of crafts that are metabolic.
Services and bland ones at that.
Thank you, Venus. Yes, metabolic instead of synthetic, so the mercantile activity gives little sense of creative scale or the athleticism of the minds of the persons behind what is being traded, unlike, for instance, when one is busy selling the wares of distant shores that are fabulous in their unusualness, and suggestive all the while of a far-off brightness. London privileges petty conflict over dramatic conflict. It neither manages nor rebukes tradition, choosing merely to ignore it, and perhaps as a result of all this, it produces few great personages, and those great it might attract from elsewhere find that their greatness is improbably stifled, and that Soseki appears in their mirror. By such conditions here as give lofty thoughts and non-hostile ambitions few conduits for expression. There are, what with this limited span of vitality within the place, accordingly few physical features of the city made landmark by overwhelmingly curious localized activity. My intent with this album was, therefore, to rebuild the city from its every randomly abutting lane to its law courts in fibers of allegory. For posterity should find the moral and intellectual profile of the city interesting for its negative characteristic, and the record itself interesting for its prescriptions of how some hypothetical characters might still find room to be defiant and alive within it. Because, after all, it must be someone's Arcadia. And if it is not, well then it must become it. know what they call London over there, don't you?
No, what?
The Black Island.
For obvious reasons.
What are the obvious reasons?
On each of these steps and shelves is still the sediment of history. But Mrs. Vaughn's sweeping cadres are scrupulous, scrupulous.
So settled and strong is their presence here now that back in Caracas they no longer call London London, they call it by an adoptive name. What name is that? San Theodoros.
San Theodoros?
Yes. Named after a scheme for the perfect steak dreamt up by a couple of lunatics. 2 twins, both of them named Theodore. Well, it is a garden of lunatics enough, I suppose. Why do white people have no culture? I don't know. Maybe they reach prosperity too discreetly and too completely for any means for controllable agitation of their cultural grain to still be possible in a way that it is for their stable demographics. Life, thus, still contented enough, is not creative. And the best, if they're made at all, have no zest.
Yeah, but why though?
Don't know. Oh, look, it's Marsy Mars coming along muttering to himself again. If London's a theatre of anything, it's of the deterioration of personality. Things given fixture on the stage with no right to be there.
Right, up you go, Sammy. There's 400 pigeons up there, and they all have or have had COVID.
Christ. They're never going to automate this one, are they?
No, you'll be forever spared your Cicero.
Tired of London.
Yeah, but you know what they say, who is tired of London's like tired of life.
Well, then I'm tired of life, I say to whoever is responsible for that saying.
Was it Dick Van Patten? Dick Van Patten what? Dick Van Patten was responsible for that saying? I don't know, I thought it was Kierkegaard. No, it was Becker. Becker, are you mad? Maybe it's guitar on Nishida. No, I remember now, no, it was Hergé. Twombly? Juana Inez. No, it must have been Graham Norton. I'm reading here, it says it's Dawit II, 35th Emperor of Ethiopia. No, I actually think according to the recall of my experience, it might have been the Game Grumps. Do you know the Game Grumps?
All my life, I've been riding the bus. All my life, I've been riding the bus. It's the risk of the transport in paradise. And every time I step aboard, the same man looks at me askance.
We never talk about that look, though every day we have the chance. Though every day we have. I was born in his Arcadia, the bug for which he was ever searching. I was not born in mine.
To flush them out with pain and destruction. Simply begin to search of whose objective you were ignorant. What outcome you will find a winding way to one island republic in which all the world is represented. They value one another none, and know themselves neither. Know themselves neither.
How many times must we say goodbye? Diamonds so long, golden river was and sayonara's. How many times must we say goodbye?
Will you explain to me why I know nothing and women cannot see through their excuses, cannot quiet the fears, nor even a light mist see them through? Yeah, still I said that Grant's line, still I preside over the mayoralty of a remedy and rhyme, only to see goodbyes fly like custard pies before their time, after time. That my voice voiced my great early again. I could tell I saved what I thought would be a final handsome misty hour with Savoyard lunch, but I was wedded again by your parting smile next breakfast club brunch. Then in the morning your flag gave me a final batch of my heart's fragments in a bunch. How many times we grow both smaller and larger within the eye? And
how many times must we say goodbye? It belong to me. Diamonds so long, golden rivers and sayonara's. How many times must we say goodbye?
Watch this bastard crust it cause I take wing. Excuse my face, a heartbreak and form my baby. Yes, it's true, you made me chew my food like a man who knows the beauty and not being hungry. You bemoan the lack of places for us and now to lay up among the winter winds that makes St. James unsuitable for the same. But you'll come back though, won't you, baby? Back to my little Rimini on Thames. When it comes to love, we all at least begin with dating textbooks. Before coming to note the subject's tasks are answered with just quick maths with a divinely compact group of water and redundant pages for depth of working. So to you I make my redundance good, but before you go make my last sum understood.
How many times must we say goodbye? It belongs to me. Diamonds so long, golden rivers, sayonara's. How many times must we say goodbye?
Welcome to this veil of my heartbreak. You'll like it here, everyone does. Though if you stay alone, but me, I'll do be someone's last resort.
How many times? How many times? Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. How many times must we say goodbye? It belongs to me. Diamonds so long, golden free once, sighing our eyes. How many times must we say goodbye? Oh, I wish the stars would fall down on me at evening. Of them as they are, shaken by storm, and at the same thing that they are losing the cloud, but gently, gently. I will wait until it falls on me, down on this prosperous step of a color's work. Be the king, no, we don't. Day after day, the heights of life is strange. Their minds separated from self as from sky. But to be all I could be, I'm falling for a day. Stars mark me in your circuit.
Welcome at last to the city whose heart is filled with the philosophy that which hurts and hurts most is true. It's not the first place over which I've ruled, in those raw green fields where I grew too. Could I shoot in a mouth of those whom I had a traded God I drew? That's my sushi at my side. I was a 10-year-old girl with a cow. One did not simply be. In fact, it's true to say these days I do not rule over you, but I am the rule under, keeping the process due from being pulled asunder by those who hold it in contempt of their instincts. Justice, I'm changed, a stubborn mechanic, doused in its oil, occasionally misplaced in its case while removing its honeycomb spoil. A lawyer, to put it straight, an activist in a wasteland cape, but less cynical and Byronic than is the modern activist's taste. And today's the day. In the newspapers they call the man out to defend the Sphinx, albeit one who must be saved by the solving of a secret. And me they say I'll have to live with that monstrous knowledge. Well then let me be that knowledge's very college. Watch ye how by defending the indefensible I become the defender of all.
Why must we come and watch a trial unfold? We've no stock in what's legal.
No, with the lawyer.
She was off a horse to take this case and him, it'll fall on her as well. Justice will be failed by the law, but it's a chance she's have to take, and if only for a day. We may see someone be all they could be when it counts.
In coming here, in order to defend, I must accuse all those who would not dare act this prisoner's lawyer. I'm his lawyer, neither. I'm the lawyer for society and all humankind that dignifies enough their title to be shocked out of mind. I accuse you of making the law into an art of the heart, that which is not served but serves, used to convict maniacs as malefactors. I've no doubt of your guilty verdict on this man. You need have no doubt about the one I had upon you either. If it's to equal him under the law, which states that we are all of the same Stardust born, you've taken the killer of a child and besides made him look a martyr and a prisoner for mankind. I can think of no greater crime that could trepan your vanity, no stanker epitaph. I will let what's due have its way. For I had faith enough for us all on this day. Yes, and when you grudge affection on my dear departed remains, you will simply have to say, you will simply have at least to say, she was faithful. She was faithful. And I was hurting generously, and I was hurting for hope. And if I was hurting, at least I was hurting for the right reasons. Along the courthouse steps, I caught sight in the sky of Verseus, that bird that otherwise appears only to doom to nears of the mounts, flying through the city for a holiday to meet a new class of damn climbers. And later on my branch, she met me with the same melody as Here You Hear, as if to say, now you have seen, freedom is not free. Then with a wink and a line, don't be afraid of being taken seriously. She made my wonder cup of tea.
Stay